So welcome everyone. Happy June. I think it's always a good feeling to know that the end is near for a very much needed break. And I hope you all have amazing summer plans. And even if you don't, that you are going to just take the summer and do absolutely nothing. So you are here this afternoon to unpack the new K-3 math curriculum in a very shortened, condensed version. I was just sharing with Ellen that I presented the full day with ASCA, which is the Alberta Independent Schools. And so we spent an entire day looking at the new curriculum. We looked at the English Language Arts and Literature and the math curriculum for kindergarten. So I am going to share my screen. Please feel free to put a question in the chat. I will try to monitor. If you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand as well. And if I'm completely ignoring you, unmute, and hopefully you can unmute yourself, and please feel free to ask questions. So we will get started. So just before we begin, I just was really curious. We have a really big group today. In fact, there was 97 people registered when I had looked this morning. So we have everyone from all over Alberta. So I'm just hoping in the chat, I just wanted to take a really quick glance. If you could name yourself, so just put your name, the school that you're at, the grade level that you are teaching, and just kind of how are you feeling about the new curriculum? Are you blue? Are you yellow? Or are you green? And I'll start with the yellow. So yellow, you're happy, you're so excited, you're fired up, you're prepared for the new curriculum, and you're like, I can't wait for September to come. Are you green? You know, you're excited, you're very interested in the new curriculum, you're very much willing to learn about it, but you know you can do it. You just need some time to really delve deeper. And then if you're blue, you're really blue, you're not sure if you can do this, you're feeling overwhelmed, you're very scared or very hesitant to get started. So I'm just gonna have you pop in the chat, the school you're at, the grade level you're at, and just how you're feeling about the new curriculum. Okay, good. I'm glad to see lots of, oh, and a yellow Crystal. Oh, awesome. Look at Candace Ketsa. You're in the yellow. Hi, Candace. It has been a while since we've seen each other. Candace and I go way back as hockey mothers. Okay, lots of green. Really glad to see that. Greens, we've got yellows. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Lynette from Onaway. Okay, green and yellow, very much. Well, that's so exciting to hear. Yes, I think lots of people have had the opportunity to at least start delving a little bit, or at least we've heard about it. And we know that come September, especially in the primary grades, we will all be teaching a new curriculum. So before we get started, it's a little windy out there, but I did go for a walk before the presentation here, and I think summer's on the way. I see flowers. People have started to plant their flowers, and they have nice baskets out front. So before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that we are on the territory of Treaty 6, a traditional meeting ground, gathering place, and traveling routes to the Cree, the Saulteaux, the Blackfoot, the Métis, the Dene, and the Dakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, the Métis, and the Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. So my goal for today is a lot. I think, 1 hour, what can we really go through? So today is really just going to be a unpacking of the new curriculum. And so we're going to just take a brief look at the new curriculum timeline. We're going to just step back just a little bit, looking at the ministerial order and the guiding framework very briefly. Then we're really going to delve into the curriculum architecture and structure. We're going to take a look at New Learn Alberta. I wanted to share with you, if you don't know already, some little navigation tips that I have discovered that seem to be hidden, and a little bit of time for exploration for those of you that haven't had so. And then just really looking at the math curriculum, specifically looking at some of the new learnings. Okay, so some of the areas where perhaps our students will be introducing something new to that grade level. So we're going to take a little time looking at the kindergarten, the grade 1, 2, and 3, and just highlighting what is new in those curricular areas. So just before I get started with such a great audience out there, I just wanted to do a little introduction of myself. My name is Tammy Leslie. I have been an educator for over 30 years. Most of my years were spent with Edmonton Catholic Schools. I taught all grades except for kindergarten and grade 5. I was also a resource facilitator. I was acting admin. I was also the math consultant for 7 years in elementary mathematics with Edmonton Catholic. And this year, I am currently working for ERLC, doing very much of what I did with Edmonton Catholic Schools, but in a much broader sense, looking after many, many school divisions. On a personal note, I am a mom of 2 boys. As you can see from the screen, I am a hockey mom. Both of my boys live away from home. My oldest left when he was 17, and now he plays in Columbus, Ohio. So I have the little picture there of planes, trains, and automobiles, because that is how our winter is spent on our weekends, going every which direction. So I am very excited to unpack a new curriculum along with you. Again, having been in education for 30 years, I have definitely seen new curriculum introduced. What I haven't seen is multiple curriculums introduced all at the same time. But there are some really, really nice features about it, of the new curriculum, and we'll certainly address that this afternoon. So just a little bit about the implementation timeline. I'm sure most of you are aware of this already, but I just wanted to take note of it, that in September, there'll be full implementation from kindergarten to grade 3 in the areas of ELAL, which is English Language Arts and Literature. They've added the literature because I guess they didn't think we read books in language arts. We have K-3 mathematics, and in the phys ed and wellness, so now health has been incorporated into the phys ed program. That will be K-6. As well as there is an option to pilot, and there might be some schools out there that are piloting the K-6 science and the French immersion language arts, as well as some of the schools are piloting the grade 4 to 6 as well, and of the science and math curriculum in addition to that. The hopes is by September 2024, there will be full implementation from K-6 all the way across all the grade levels. So still lots to do, lots to accomplish. I do appreciate how they have not fully implemented the entire curriculum, so only looking at 3 curriculums this current year. So setting the direction, I just wanted to take a step back just to give a little history of, the new curriculum and how it all started. So we know that in 2020, the ministerial order was created and signed off on, and it's a policy document. So it was written for kindergarten to grade 12, and it really set the vision for student learning. It really set that students will gain knowledge and skills to form the foundations for successful and fulfilling lives and make meaningful contributions. It also addressed the foundations of learning. And so the ministerial order really set in place that literacy and numeracy are the foundational building blocks of learning. And these foundations of literacy and numeracy really establish the core knowledge, the shared civic and cultural literacy, and skills that enable students to solve problems, to think critically, and to really become active and informed citizens. And then as well, it also outlined the outcomes for learning. So including knowledge, including character development and community engagement. So this was the foundational document that then brought forth the development of the guiding framework. Now, the guiding framework is definitely a lot more in depth. It really took the ministerial order and interpreted it for student learning, and really in order for all stakeholders to have some direction in the curriculum. They're in the guiding framework, and I have put QR codes, if you're noticing them on the screens, for you to access if you'd like to look at these documents. As I go through the presentation, you're very welcome with your phones to, or your computer, to access the QR codes. Those will take you to the documents that I'm referencing. But excuse me, it really provides transparent guidelines to support parents, educators to really understand the curriculum development. And it also really helped to guide the what is being taught. So it is the curriculum. So really what students need to learn, why they need to learn it. It does not, however, give us the how. That is really up to teacher professionalism to do the how of the curriculum. So when I think of the guiding framework, I actually put this visual up because I look at it as being really that foundation. And in order to build upon, you need that solid foundation. And so we need to know how it is built. So in the guiding framework, we have what you see, those are all contained in the guiding framework. And it's really important for us to spend a little bit of time going through the features of it. And I'm actually going to spend the most time this afternoon looking at the architecture and the design, because it really is what, as teachers, we are going to need to know to support our learning as well as our learning experiences for our children. So what is really nice, because all curriculum was created, and ongoing, but at the same time, is there are 3 common features across all subjects. And actually it will be across all subjects once they are implemented. And the first one is the architecture and design. So this architecture and design is the same across. It will be from K to 12. And it really is that systematic and logical arrangement. And it will be, like I said, for all core subjects, working through the grade levels. As well, the structure of the learning outcomes will be consistent across all subjects. So each learning outcome is going to contain more the conceptual understanding. So it'll have 1 or more concepts that we want students to attain. And it really is the focus for the learning activities that you will do with your students. It is also what will be assessed and reported upon. So I know there is lots in our new curriculum. As educators, we are mandated to report on the learning outcomes, to summatively assess and give a level of achievement to. And the third feature across all subjects is clear and concise language. So as you were working through all the curriculum documents, there was a real focus on trying to not have jargon in the curriculum, to be really clear and concise, and really will help. It's supposed to have unbiased language to really, again, have a common thread throughout. So we're going to delve a little bit. Like I said, I wanted to focus a little bit more on the features and really looking at what and I don't really know how to call it, but it's the architecture. So it really is, there's 5 components to the architecture, and you will find these pieces in all subject areas, in all core subject areas. They are consistent throughout. And I want to spend a little bit of time looking at them this afternoon, because they're really going to support you in your planning, right? They're going to, you really can't take them out of isolation, because they really will help you as you're unpacking curriculum, to really understand what is it that I want my students to know, understand, and do, and really what is that conceptual understanding that I want them to have so they can transfer through as they move through the grades. Oh, Lynette, I just see your question just popped up. I have a teaching partner trying to get into the meeting, but she says she can't. That is really interesting because I don't have anything on my screen letting her in. Is she in the right Zoom meeting? Do you know? Okay, thanks, Jackie. I had to log out and try again. Oh, everybody had to leave and rejoin. Thanks, everyone. Good old. I don't think anything's changed with technology. I'm sure you can all have stories, and I don't think I've ever had a session, and I've had several these last couple of years that something hasn't gone on. So yes, if you want to tell her to maybe leave and then rejoin, seems like lots of people had the same problem. So thank you, everyone. So moving in and kind of focusing on the first area that I want to start with, and I actually call it the spiral. I'm not sure what else to call it. And I don't know, maybe somebody else has a more creative idea of the visual, but that starts with the organizing ideas. And the organizing ideas really begin with that end in mind. And it's a statement. These are statements of learning within a given section of a particular subject area. And they're logical categories, and really they communicate the goals of that particular subject. And it really is, I look at them as really those big rocks, those essentials that we want our students to know about a particular, I call them topics, they call them organizing ideas. So when you're looking at those organizing ideas, really think about the body of knowledge that it's wanting you to think about in terms of when you're planning for your students. It entails those skills, those strategies, the processes that we want students to really develop in the learning experiences for them to understand. And so here is an example of a couple of organizing ideas. As you will notice, they are very broad, general statements. They really are very general, but it is that essential. So when we look, and I chose two examples, one from kindergarten and one from grade 2. So as we're moving through the slides, kindergarten example will be in light red. I don't know what color you're seeing on your screen, and kind of a mauvey, lilac-y purple that actually made me think of lilacs. So when we look, you will see the big ideas. So when we look at number, also, what you will notice is, even though I'm giving a kindergarten and grade 2 example, the organizing idea is the same. Okay, again, because it is that broad, conceptual, what is it? What are those essentials that we want students to know? And that, in this case, is that quantity is measured with numbers, and it enables counting, labeling, comparing, using our operations. Estimation, I think, should be in there too, but it's not. Then as you move down through the spiral, we come to the guiding questions. Now, the guiding questions should invoke curiosity. It should invoke more questions. It really requires higher order thinking. Okay. They are often questions that could be very debatable, right? So it really lends itself to having students engage in thinking. They're very open-ended, okay? And it really should guide the student learning as they work through a particular organizing idea or understanding. What I want to make note of, though, remember that the curriculum is written for us as educators. Okay? It is not written for our students. So I know as I was unpacking the curriculum and started reading the guiding questions, I'm like, some of them seem kind of tough for kindergarten. Like, how can quantity contribute meaning to daily life? I can see lots of kindergarten students looking at me going, I don't know what you're saying. So remember that curriculum is written for teachers. It is not written for children. So, and your students. So I say, even though these are awesome questions that are really going to guide and frame the learning, chances are you're going to want to rewrite them in student-friendly language. But I do look at these guiding questions as I would put them up in my classroom. And I, would always reference them. In fact, as I was thinking of unpacking, I would put these guiding questions up and almost have a mind map going on in my classroom as we work through a particular topic or subject area. And then just really, then that goes down and we're filtering down that spiral there, and that is looking at the learning outcomes. Now, the learning outcomes are framed by the guiding question, supported by, and introduced by the organizing idea. The learning outcomes is really the heart and matter. These are the ones, the learning outcome is what must be assessed and reported on. It is not the organizing idea. It is not the guiding question. It will also is not the cusp, which is your knowledge, your skills and procedures. But the learning outcome is really describes what that students are required to know, understand, and be able to do. And as we know, they have to the end of the grade to have us put a level of achievement on. They are very subject specific. And as we look at a couple learning outcomes, you will notice that they will include one or more concepts that really is the focus of that particular subject. So again, here is a kindergarten example. It's following along. So the organizing idea was talking about number. If you look, you will see how the conceptual understanding of quantity is embedded in each three of those areas. But the learning outcome really is a lot more specific in terms of what we want children to do. So in kindergarten, right, children are going to investigate quantities to 10. If we look at a grade 2, so again, grade 2, developmentally looking at quantity, but now they're not looking at quantities to 10, they are now going to analyze quantities to 1,000. So you will see again that organizing idea spans across, that conceptual idea, an understanding of quantity is embedded, but of course the learning outcome progresses as students move through the grade level. And then as we move through the spiral, we now kind of come to what I think is really, really important. And that is, how do I support the learning outcome? And this really will guide me as that teacher to go, okay, what is this learning asking? Okay, so this is what we refer to as CUSP, which is the knowledge, the understanding, and the skills and procedures. And so these are really what's going to help students to get to the learning outcome. So the knowledge is learned in order for students. It will include those facts that builds towards understanding. It is foundational. So what is it that we want students to know, okay, about that learning or that learning outcome? Okay, so again, those are those essential rocks. Then we look and there will be statements of understanding. And so that will be about putting those pieces of knowledge together, so in a logical order, so it makes sense. And I'm reading them, they're often more complex than the knowledge. And the understanding, when students have true understanding, they are able to take that knowledge about that concept and transfer it to other learning environments. And then the last piece is your skills and procedures. Now, these are specific, and it really is, or what students are going to do to demonstrate their knowledge and their understanding to get to the learning outcome. It will include strategies. So what strategies students might have to do. It might include a specific tool. I know for some of them, use a hundreds chart, okay, to look at patterns, or a particular method, you know, that we want students to do, algorithm. Okay, so again, when we look again at the kindergarten example, and we look at the knowledge, the understanding, and skills and procedures, they will, as a teacher, give you more information to really support how children will investigate quantities to 10. The skills and procedures are not meant to be a checklist. So as teachers, you're not supposed to go check, I did this, but they really will guide your learning activities and experiences that you do with your students. So again, when we take all of these, it really helps when we're planning to unpack the curriculum and helps us to really understand that learning outcome. And again, here's a great grade clasp. Okay, so again, looking at quantities, you know, they're going to represent quantities using natural numbers. You will notice in the new curriculum, there are some new terms. I'm going to share that as part of the consortium, the Alberta Regional Consortium, we are developing support documents for the new curriculum. One of the support documents that we are creating is vocabulary. So you will be able to click on our documents and it will take you to a definition of the math terms. In this case, natural number, which is your whole numbers. So those are kind of the essentials. That really is architecture that, again, is consistent. Even though I shared math examples with you, the architecture, that spiral, is consistent all the way throughout. What I want to do right now, though, is to take a little bit of time exploring New Learn Alberta. Now, just before we get started, again, I don't know everybody out there, and we've all had different experiences, but I thought time is a brand new organizing idea or a brand new strand in the new curriculum. It stands alone now. And so I am curious, just with my audience out here, how much time have you had the opportunity to explore the new Learn Alberta site, to actually log in, do some exploration? So I thought, okay, time is brand new. Why don't we do this? So in the chat, just for time, I'd like you to put a time. So how much opportunity have you had? Are you at 3 o'clock, less than 30 minutes? So I've peaked, but I really haven't spent much time. Have you had a 6 o'clock? That means you spent a couple hours exploring the new Learn Alberta site. 9 o'clock means more than 2 hours. Or 12 o'clock, it's June. Are you kidding me? Who has had time to even get started? So I'm going to have you put into the chat. Awesome, Amanda, I appreciate that honesty. So how have you had time to delve into it? And again, there is no judgment, because I would, if I wasn't in this role, I'd probably be, it's 12 o'clock, it's June. I'm going to wait. So a couple of hours. Do we have any 9 o'clocks? Okay, Lorna, you have, awesome. Oh, Candace, you have as well, good. Awesome. So again, as you can tell, we're all over the place, and that's how we're going to be. But I think what's really nice about the new curriculum in this journey is we're going to do it all together. So what's really nice, right, is Alberta Education has been working on lots of supports. The consortiums, and I know your school divisions, have been working on building lots of supports. We know that it always takes time, but again, we're going to journey with this together. I've been talking to publishers. I know that they are looking at creating material as well. So I'm going to take a few minutes just to delve into the new Learn Alberta site. This is, as soon as you log in, this will be your home page that you will go to. They always have been keeping up with recent announcements. So any announcement is posted here, so you have access to it, as well as the curriculum. As there are support documents in New Learn Alberta site. If you have not had a chance to go to New Learn Alberta, there's also a really great video There are also parent supports. So this teacher guide will give you some more information. It will also tell you how to set up a teacher login. This video, I do encourage you to watch. It's 13, 14 minutes. This is the parent video, but I actually like it better than the teacher video that they have for us. So parent nights, teachers in a newsletter, you might want to share out the link to this video because it is going to support your parents as well in understanding the new curriculum, the features of it, and what it looks like. So I do have, again, on the screen, a QR if you want to delve into the new curriculum. When you click on, you will be taken to a landing page, which will enable you to access or browse, it says, by all subject areas. You also have in each subject area progressions. So you will have the literacy, numeracy progressions, and the competency progressions that I will chat about in a little bit. And if you look at the left-hand side, okay, you can toggle over and head to any one of these areas. I do want to reference that if you have not, as a teacher or as an educator, logged in, you will be limited on some of the things that you can see. If you want to have full access, you will need to log in and set up an account. You will need your teaching certificate. So if you were like me, I had to search and actually go to Alberta, the ATA, to find my teaching certificate. But you will, excuse me, as teachers, want to log in as a teacher because it is going to enable you, or as an educator, it is going to allow you to access more things. So for example, once you are logged in, you will have access to boards and additional resources. So I do encourage you to set up an account as an educator so you have access to those those areas in Learn Alberta. Alberta Ed is continually adding resources to the site. In fact, every time I go on, there seems to be something new. So again, there are some free ones, but as an educator, once you get you logged in, you can access a lot more resources. Currently, right now, Jump Math is the first kind of publisher that has math resources on there. The other one I've noticed in the area of math is there are some little books. So I'm not sure those of you that are using Mathology as a resource out there, but many of the little books, and there's some fantastic ones for even just teaching math and certainly language arts, that will really support you. All of the materials of Jump Math is not on there. It is very textbook and workbook heavy. So there's lots of Blackline Masters to support you with that as well. And the other area, as an educator, when you set up your account, you're going to have access to boards. Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time. I could probably do a whole new session on just boards, but it really is a planning tool. And this is kind of exciting, is it's a planning tool where you can access and have the ability to create a board. So for a particular topic or organizing ideas, it also is going to be an area where teachers can share with each other. So a collaborative place for teachers to share their boards. So there is lots of support on there for you. Like I said, this could be a whole other session about the creation of boards, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention because there are already currently some boards on here that Alberta Education has put on there. I started exploring, so the ones on top are my boards that I've started creating, so just kind of playing with it. I'm not even going to show you them though, because they're not great, because I'm in the playing stages. So some of the features of the new curriculum, I'm going to go through this kind of as my navigation and tips, as again, you can access, you can have the competency, the literacy and numeracy progressions, and these are kind of those support documents that again will help with planning. You have a printable curriculum. Okay. And the printable curriculum, one, it prints out in a PDF. it will give you kind of the scope. So it contains all the grade levels from K to 6. So really nice if you are teaching or have a combined grade, right, to be able to see and put your grade levels side by side, your 2 grade levels, to really look at what's the same and what's different, perhaps where is there some new learning. So you have access to a printable version. You have the competencies. So those are really those knowledge, those skills, what we want students to be able to develop, those habits that we want them to do to be successful students and then successful contributing members of society. There are 7 of them, and so it's critical thinking, problem solving, research and management, creativity and innovation, communication, collaboration, personal wellness, or personal growth and well-being, and citizenship. These are not assessed upon. They are not grade level specific as well, but they are really a great support as you're looking at some of those behaviors or those guiding questions as well as you work through the different subject areas. In addition, there's literacy and numeracy progressions. So again, these are not grade level specific, but they really are, again, what we want students to be able to do. We want them to be literate. We want them to be numerate. So it really is that application of those math skills in other areas. As you work through the site, I wanted to just share a couple of the secret menus. And I actually put the McDonald's because, you know, the Big Mac sauce that we really don't know what's in it till, you know, we really delve deeper. So I wanted to share them with you because it actually took me a while to discover them. So I'm hoping I can alleviate a little bit of stress for you to point them out. So I shared with you the printable curriculum. You also have access to a digital version, and I actually prefer to work in the digital version than the printable. And the reason why is I seem to get a lot more information. So when you are in the digital version and you hover over the learning outcome and you have to hover over it, you are going to see this magic little icon. This magic little icon is going to take you to another section. This section is going to look like this. It is going to give you a lot more support for helping you plan your learning activities and help you to achieve that learning outcome. So when you click on the icon, you're going to be taken to this area, which has the organized idea, your guiding question, your learning outcome, but you have all the knowledge and skills and understandings on one page. You also have access to the resources that connect to that learning outcome. You have the competency progressions that are specific to that learning outcome.
Kill all mosquitoes in the area in 90 seconds.
You also have the reference to the specific literacy and numeracy progressions that are related to that learning outcome. So that icon really takes you into a document that helps to filter down the resources that might be available, the competencies that you would focus on, as well as the literacy and numeracy progressions that are there. The other secret menu item that actually took me a really long time to discover, I'm almost embarrassed to say that, is the little print icon. When you are up in the digital version, it's this little guy up in the corner, okay? And it really is handy because it will help you to filter down what it is that you would like to print. I don't know if you were at a school, but most of the schools I was at, I had a printing budget, and I wasn't allowed to go over that printing budget other than I had to go in and beg and plead with my administrator, could I have a few more printing copies? So you do have the ability to filter down what it is that you would like to print. So it gives you the option to print the curriculum or the subject introduction. It will also enable you to filter down what it is you do want to print. So maybe I only want the guiding questions and the learning outcomes. Maybe I only want the learning outcomes and the knowledge and understanding. I don't need the guiding question. Maybe I only want the organization and guiding question. But it really allows you to filter down what it is that you want to print. As well, and I guess I don't have it here, you can also pick your grades. So I can be very specific. I may be old school, but I always like to print my curriculum out. So I can filter down. I want grade 1. I want the math curriculum. I only want the learning outcome or the cusps. So I can filter more specifically what I want done. So that information button will really allow you to be more specific instead of printing out pages and pages and pages of documents. I hope as I am chatting, you have had the opportunity to go to New Learn Alberta and maybe play around. I was going to actually have you do a little scavenger hunt, but I am looking at the time, and I thought I was not going to have time to let you play and explore. But I do encourage you to take the time to look at the different views of the printable curriculum and the digital version. If you go to the Curriculum Implementation Information Hub, there are some fantastic bridging documents in there that allows you to see at a quick glance what has changed in that grade level. I showed you where the information icon is, and I also showed you that printable icon. And like I said, there are resources and continually to be added resources. So I do encourage you to explore the resource and see if there's anything that would be useful to use in your classroom. I'm going to stop there. Do all the learning outcomes have the little information icons? Yes, all of the ones that I have explored so far, they've all had that little eye. But like I said, you need to hover over them. It just doesn't appear when you open up the screen. So far I've had luck. I haven't gone through every learning outcome, but most of them, so far so good. The ones I have gone to have certainly have the information icon. Before I move on to just really delving into the math curriculum, is there any questions, any comments, any wonderings that you have that I can address right now? And if you want to put on your screen so I can see your face, that would be fantastic. Or you can type in. Or have I overwhelmed you all so much, or like your heads are swimming? All right, Karen says we're ready for the math. All right, let's go. So unpacking the math curriculum. Again, if you want to kind of follow along as I am doing, I've put a QR code that will take you right to the math curriculum. If you haven't gone there already, you can bypass some of the little rabbit holes. Once you click on a specific subject, you will be taken to the landing page. What's really nice is you can see you have access to all the curriculums in one glance. They do have the 4, 5, 6, so you can have a peek. Those haven't been stamped and said, yes, we can, but they are there. So especially if you're teaching grade 3, it's really nice to see where students are going. You will also have subject introduction. Now, it is quite a bit smaller than our current program of studies, which had several pages to do with the introduction of math, which as someone who loves math, I was actually disappointed in this piece, but don't tell anybody, don't tell Alberta Education. Because for me, that front matter is really the heart and matter. Yes, we have at each grade level the specifics, but it really is the essence of mathematics and numeracy. So I've taken the subject introduction and I've kind of just put it in bullets for you just to kind of sum it up. And it really talks about that math is that universal language. And it really is a very powerful tool to solve real life problems. We need math for many things, and it really is intertwined into every element of our lives. In fact, as an ed teacher, I started in the beginning of the year, and I would tell my students, name a career where we don't use math. And so every so often, one of my students would come up to me and they'd say, Mrs. Leslie, you don't use math to play hockey. And I would say, oh, really? Well, let me tell you. And so it became quite an engaging conversation because they would try to stump me with careers that you wouldn't use math in. And math, we want students to really be proficient as mathematicians because we want them to really think about our world, to develop an appreciation for all those relationships. We want them to be able to be problem solvers, to be able to use reasoning and logic to make a important decision. So mathematics is extremely important, as well as numeracy. And I just wanted to take a minute because I often think that even though numeracy and math share a very inherent relationship, they are different. Okay, so mathematics is essentially those skills. Numeracy is the application. And so numeracy really is that foundational building block. It focuses on counting and comparing and calculating, but math is the learning how. Numeracy is that application. So yes, we're going to, learn how to tell time in math. Why? And this is where the numeracy piece comes in, because we don't want you to be late for school. We want you to be able to determine, how long you have or how long is it going to take to, get to Calgary. We want them to be able to do operations so they can budget and manage money. And so when we also focus on numeracy, and that's why those numeracy progressions are so important as well, we're really going to give a solid foundation for that mathematical knowledge. Understanding the curriculum, I wanted to bring this to your attention because there are some nuances, and and again, you might want to take a screenshot of what is optional versus required content. And this came out from Alberta Education. And so in the curriculum, you are going to see such as, for example, including, or you might have some content that are in parentheses. Each one has a different interpretation. Okay. So if when you are reading through the curriculum, you see such as, what such as, when you see those two words, indicates what follows is optional. If you see, for example, again, is an optional component. Including, required, and if it's in brackets, it's more directed to just the teacher, so they don't have to know that particular vocabulary. So here are just some examples. Okay, it's kindergarten. You will see under the understanding in the number organizing idea that quantity remains the same no matter how the object or group are arranged. That is a counting principle called conservation. Okay, so conservation, students need to know about conservation, but they don't have to name it. Okay, they just have to know what it is. In grade 1, you see there's an example of including. Okay, so if you see including, it is required and must be addressed in your learning activities that you do with your students. Okay, so subtraction can be applied in various contexts, including, okay, comparing quantities, taking away one quantity from another, and finding a part of a whole. So those all must be part of the learning experiences with your students. Okay, grade 3, you see such as. So again, it's optional. You don't have to do all of these. When you look at the math curriculum as well, and we've talked about it a lot, gone are the strands. Okay, in our current curriculum, we had 4 of them in elementary. Those have now, the math strands have been replaced with organizing ideas. And again, it goes back to the guiding framework where we want it to have consistency and common features across all grade levels. These are the new math strands, okay, which are going to be referred to as organizing ideas. So they, shape and space, geometry and measurement was a part of that math strand. It is now stands as separate, the same with time. Okay. Geometry, we now have coordinate geometry. It will stand as a separate organizing idea. As you can see, and again, you have access organizing ideas. So algebra, for example, doesn't officially start till grade 3, okay, and goes to grade 6. Coordinate geometry, evident in grade 5 and 6 learning outcomes, okay. Time, there won't be a specific learning outcome after grade 4. So as you can see, organizing ideas will span across grade levels. Must be getting to the end. It says my battery is running low. I realize my computer is not plugged in. So I'm just going to pause as I go down. The other thing that I really want to bring to your attention, and this was part of the front matter in our current program of studies, is those mathematical processes are gone. So again, when I think about what I want my students to be able to do, well, I want them to reason. I want them to use mental math and estimation. I want them to communicate their understanding and problem solve. So I'm going to ask all of you, use those competencies like the mathematical processes, okay? Those are those skills that underline what it is we want our students to develop. So when I look at them, I'm like, yes, they're very similar to the mathematical process. So, as you're teaching your outcomes and you're teaching throughout the year, that have a look at these competencies and see where they fit in with your learning. So the last part that I want to go through is just kind of highlighting for you what is new. So I, again, couldn't do it all, but I did want to highlight some of the new understandings in the curriculum. If you are a kindergarten teacher out there, and I don't know if you're a kindergarten teacher, what I wanted to share with you is very little changes have been made. So when I was working with the kindergarten teachers on Monday, they were like, yes, they were all so excited. They're like, oh, we can, we don't have to change much in the area of mathematics. And the answer is yes. The new understandings in kindergartens, you're going to spend a little bit more time on the 2D, although I don't know which kindergarten teacher didn't already. And what is now very much in the new curricula is a focus on the First Nations, the Métis and the Inuit peoples. So now there are specific elements, whether it's in the knowledge, the understanding, or the skills and procedures to support the First Nation, Métis, and Inuit perspective. Okay. And the only other thing that is new is, like I said, there's a new organizing idea of time, and it really is interpreting time as a sequence of events. And when you delve deeper in that as a kindergarten teacher, you do it already in your calendar time. So today, tomorrow, yesterday, what's next, right? So it's really embedded in everything that you do. Now, moving on to grade 1. Grade 1, in the current, we spent a lot of time on working with quantities to 20. Well, in the new curriculum, you're really going to work now with quantities to 100. Okay, so that is a jump from our current. Again, you're still going to work and model addition and subtraction within 20. Recall addition facts to 10 now, okay, instead of 5 with that automaticity. And the other big one is you're going to be introduced to fractions. And at first I thought, oh my gosh, how are they going to do fractions? But again, when I looked at the curriculum, I'm like, okay, it's okay. Grade 1, they only have to look at 1/2. And I think even students coming exactly, thanks, Ellen, you're right, 1/2. Students entering school, right? Share a half a cookie with your sister, right? They're really familiar with one half already. So if you're teaching grade 1, I'm thinking, okay, that's not tough at all. In geometry, again, they're looking at identifying, sorting 2D and 3D. They are now having an introduction to lines of symmetry. So that part is new. In measurement, they're going to be measuring, but they're also looking at distance now. Like, how far is it from me to you? How far is it from me to the door? Okay, so now they're looking and measuring distance in a really familiar context. Patterning, they're still creating patterns and making patterns, but now they're really going to investigate patterns and cycles, which really, again, is that perspective of cycles in nature. So I look at that and going, okay, science. I see lots of cross-curricular connections with my science and seasons. And again, they're going to look at the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit practice, investigating cycles, okay, in nature. Time, again, like I said, that's new. So they're going to explain time in relation to cycles. So I also think of calendar cycles. I also look at seasons. So again, I see lots of cross-curricular connections. And it used to be in the program of studies prior to this one is that graphing was always there. It is back now. So they're going to create and interpret information from a pictograph and a concrete graph. So I know many grade 1, and I know when I taught grade 1, we did it, embedded it naturally. Grade 2, again, this is a biggie. Us grade 2 teachers, we were looking at quantities to 100. They are now looking at analyzing quantities to 1,000. Okay. Skip counting was always a part of grade 2, but now there is a real focus on money. So as part of your skip counting practices, you will now be using coins and bills to skip count. Okay. Fractions, again, they're looking part whole relationships, so fractions of a whole and of a set. Geometry, you're moving into geometric attributes. This was currently in grade 3. It is now in grade 2. So you're looking at the sides, the vertices, and the faces or surfaces. And just a little side note, they don't mention edges, but I'm not sure how you're going to do lots of sorting if you don't talk about the edges. So it's not part of the curriculum. I'm hoping it was just an oversight. You don't have to formatively assess, but I do encourage you, if you're here today, to still talk about edges, because I'm not sure how you talk about geometric attributes with leaving those out. But again, that's just me. They are introduced, and this is now new. This is an introduction to translations. So you're going to take 2D objects, you're going to slide them, you're going to rotate them, and you're going to turn them. Okay, so it is an introduction to translations. Moving on to measurement. There is standard units now. So grade 2 used to be a lot of using non-standard units. You're using both now. You're going to talk about references for centimeters, and again, bringing in that First Nations, Métis, or Inuit perspective of using the land and estimations of length. Grade 2, patterns very similar. Again, you're going to look at numerical and non-numerical to 1,000. You're also going to look, and again, this is bringing in different cultural perspectives. You're going to look at cultural designs and look at patterns in design. So again, bringing in that very much that First Nation and Métis and Inuit. Time, you're now going to use standard units. So minutes and hours to talk about the duration. So, you know, how long to recess? It's 1 hour. Okay. You're going to, how long is our school day? It's 6 hours. So you're going to start relating events to time. And under statistics, which is your data, not only are you doing pictographs, bar graphs, but the introduction of dot plots is part of grade 2. And then moving on to grade 3. Students currently looking at 1,000, they're now working with numerals and numbers to 100,000. They're still looking at addition and subtraction and involving strategies to 1,000. They now, even, it was an introduction to multiplication and division. They're now going within 100, okay, with and without remainders. Okay. Facts go to 10 times 10. And they're now starting with working with fractions of one whole, including unit fractions and denominators to 10 or less. Okay, so to 12s. Geometry, and one of the guiding frameworks is a bigger focus on spatial awareness and spatial reasoning, as you can see as I'm sharing through the grades. The properties that they focus on in grade 3, they're going to be looking at perpendicular, parallel, and equal. Okay, so lines and segments. Again, they're looking at transformations. There is an introduction to right angles. They're still going to continue to sort and classify polygons. That's current. Metric, and this is a new one. Okay, always dealing with metric, but now there is an introduction back to imperial. With the metric, it was centimeters and meters. They're now going to bring in millimeters, centimeters, decimeters, and meters. Okay, and looking at the relationship between those. They're going to have to relate inches to feet and yards, so that imperial piece, and do some conversions. I didn't want to put that in because, again, I don't want to scare everybody. And they're looking at angles. So just very simply comparing different angles, you know, is this angle greater than or less than? Sequences, so patterning now, sequences that might be finite or infinite. So patterns that continue forever and ever, and those that end. Grade 3, and this was in grade 4, is the telling of time using clocks. Okay, so the analog and the digital. They're going to look at first-hand and second-hand data in a dot plot. So introduced now in grade 2, continued on in grade 3. And again, bringing in that perspective of the First Nations, the Métis, or the Inuit. I do, and I know we're running out of time, to let you know that financial literature is really definitely something that is brand new in our current curriculum. Students weren't formally required to learn about money in that financial. Now they are working with money, not only as a manipulative, so kinder, they have to recognize the value and sort them, what's the same and different. They look at bills, they look at coins. What is interesting to note, and if you haven't heard already, the financial literacy is going to be found in the physical education and wellness curriculum. I have talked to many teachers who are going to embed this financial piece into their math. So I wanted to bring it to your attention because you have, I think, option to do it in your phys ed classes, although I'm not sure you're going to be in the gym and you're going to bring out money. But to me, it lends itself more naturally into the math curriculum. So again, the financial literacy piece spans across K to 6. It really in kinder is all about just recognition. So money as a manipulative. And as we move through the grades, money to becoming more conceptual, numeracy based, right? Looking at money as a currency, looking at budgeting and what a loan is. So it really is. And I do know that is one area where lots of supports are currently being built. So I hope I didn't scare you. I hope I didn't overwhelm you. I hope you can walk away going, okay, I hope the green still stays. Okay, I got this. I got this. What I wanted to end today's session, though, is the curriculum is what we teach, but it really is, it's not the how. And so really, really important as professional, as the amazing educators and teachers you are out there, you are going to continue to focus on the conceptual understanding. Math concepts are the same. Yes, they've been tweaked and kind of moved around, but you're still going to teach children how to count. You're still going to teach them how to add and subtract. You're still going to measure. You're still going to look at shapes. You're still going to look at fractions. Okay? That's not changing. The where is maybe in the grade. You're still going to use those best teaching practices that you in your classrooms. You're still going to bring in those math manipulatives and those tools. You're still going to continue to do math talks. You're still going to have your students work independently and collaboratively together to solve problems. And most of all, as true educators you are, you're going to continue to meet your students where they're at, right? Always, always, and I know all of you work so hard taking into consideration their social and emotional development and always taking them from where they're at. So we will continue to work together in this journey. I want it to end today by just saying, you've got this. More importantly, we've got this. You know, we have our colleagues, we have each other. I am here as a learning facilitator to support you. I know I talked through the whole thing, so I'm sure your minds are full and really not giving a lot of interactive time. If you have questions, please feel free to send me an email. I also will stay on because I know it's 5 o'clock and everybody's got soccer and suppers to make. I will stay on if you have some questions, but if not, I wish you an amazing, amazing summer full of rest and sunshine and novel reading that has nothing to do with education. So take care, have an amazing summer, and we will see you back in the fall.